Well, good evening. Welcome to About the Valley. And my guest this week is Brian Shortsleeve. Brian is a gubernatorial candidate who wants to get a job in the corner office there. And he's running. He's in the primary. There is a competition, so he's looking to get your vote on September 1st. If you're a Republican voter, you'll get a Republican ballot. But if you're unenrolled, you get to choose. And he'd like you to choose the Republican ballot and vote for.
And that's the Tuesday before Labor Day.
Yes.
That's a week a lot of people are traveling. Maybe they're on the beach.
They're closing down their cottage.
Or their kids are going back to school. So if you're not going to be around that week, request a ballot and vote absentee. The absentee ballot application is available right now. And if you're an independent voter, come vote in the Republican primary. It's available to you.
Right. Anyway, what made you want to run for governor? Because you're a pretty successful guy on your own.
Well, Harry, I love Massachusetts. I grew up in this state. I grew up in Belmont, Massachusetts. Came from a middle-class family. Both of my parents worked extremely hard to put me through high school. I always wanted to serve my country. My grandfather, when I was growing up, was my hero. He was a Naval Academy grad who had served in World War II. So when my time came, I went to Harvard College on an ROTC scholarship for the Marine Corps. And I spent 4 years as an officer in the Marine Corps, deployed all over the world. I was in Bosnia after the Dayton Peace Accords for part of a peacekeeping mission. I deployed to the Persian Gulf in 1998. I had the opportunity to lead Marines all over the world. For me, the most important lessons I learned about life and leadership, I learned as an officer in the Marine Corps. Honor, courage, commitment. Marines are the first in, last out, get the job done, no excuses. That's leadership in the Marine Corps. And I think in this state right now, we are desperately in need of new leadership.
I admire the fact that you joined Marines like that, because since there's no draft anymore, people don't have to go in. So I really admire the ones that do.
Well, you know, since I was young, I always wanted to serve my country. It was really important to me. It was a tradition in my family. I tell you one thing about the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, leadership means putting the mission first and never backing down from a tough fight. My mission, running for governor of Massachusetts, is to restore affordability. And I've got a plan day one when I am governor to eliminate all of those state-mandated fees from your electric and gas bills. I'll sign the income tax rollback, which will reduce the tax rate from 5% to 4%. I'll end the tax on tips. I'll end the tax on overtime, and I will suspend the gas tax. Those are basic steps, Harry, that would significantly improve affordability.
Will you be able to get through the legislature on that?
Oh, you bet I will. You bet I will. Don't forget, when Bill Weld became governor, people told him, you'll never be able to get anything done because all those Democrats in the legislature.
Right.
You know, he cut taxes 41 times in his first year. And you know why? Because he had good ideas. He was a good leader. And people recognized on both sides of the aisle that the state needed a new direction.
Where you could bring the money in and still retain the budget at where it is and not have to charge all those taxes.
And that's exactly what we need in Massachusetts today. We're a state that was #1 in growth and private sector job growth and entrepreneurship not very long ago when Charlie Baker was governor. This state added 250,000 jobs over 8 years. With Maura Healey at the helm, in the last 3.5 years, Massachusetts has lost 30,000 private sector jobs. I want to turn that around. I want to get Massachusetts growing again.
Yes, she's almost at the point where she wants to drive people out of the state.
Well, you know, we were recently at the very top of what's called the U-Haul one-way outbound list. You know what that means? It means you're leaving and you're not coming back.
Yes.
That is not a list you want to be at the top of. But the reality is there's 100 people a day right now leaving Massachusetts. Young people, age 25 to 45, are the fastest group leaving. And when you ask them why they're leaving to find jobs in other places. They're going to North Carolina. They're going to Texas. They're going to Florida. We could turn that around. I'm a businessman. I spent my whole life in the private sector building businesses, and we need a businessman in the corner office that can attract companies, get people to grow here so our young people won't leave.
I'll guarantee anyone out there that you know someone who's moved to North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Texas. You check it, Tennessee.
And it's not just people, it's companies.
Yes.
Just in the course of the last 4 months, we've seen more than 50 companies leave Massachusetts. Even Cape Cod potato chips
I know.
left Hyannis. to move to North Carolina.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Cape Cod potato. How can they call them Cape Cod potato chips any longer?
Well, maybe they're going to call them North Carolina potato chips.
Yeah.
But here's the deal. There are other states that are fighting for our companies. It's a competitive world we live in. It's a national market. There are states like Texas and North Carolina. They're cutting taxes. They're keeping expenses low.
Yes.
Their energy costs, in some cases, are a third of what ours are. This is a great state. We got the smartest people in the country. We got the best universities. We should be number one, and I know we can be number one again.
Thing is, if you look at Florida, they're talking about eliminating the property tax because they got so much money coming in.
Well, imagine a state with no income tax.
And
but
no
they
income
have,
tax.
They have so many people moving there that in the past 8 years, they've paid down half of their state debt. You know, Florida's added 1 million private sector jobs over the past 5 years. Massachusetts has lost 30,000. The private sector is really important. The private
Yes.
sector is what pays the bills. If you have a growing private sector, it means you're innovative. It means companies want to be here. If your private sector is getting smaller, it means you're not a good place to do business.
Well, it's not just the income tax in Massachusetts, the income tax on businesses. People don't realize that they pay a lot more than you do as an individual.
And I'm in the small business world. I've spent my career helping small businesses grow and thrive. I'm an entrepreneur. Most small businesses pay at the individual rate because they're organized as what you would call an S Corp or an LLC.
Right.
So in Massachusetts, many small businesses I talk to now are paying at the 9% rate, which is the 5% plus the 4%.
Yes.
I met an entrepreneur recently who owns Burger Kings all over New England, Massachusetts, New Hampshire. His costs in New Hampshire are much, much lower than they are here. Number one, he's not paying 9%. But number two, his electricity cost in Massachusetts to run his Burger King, $600,000 a year in electricity. And you know, a third of that bill are state mandated fees. In New Hampshire, he pays none of those things.
Right, he's just over the border, not that far away.
And by the way, you're paying them too. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
when you look at your electricity bill or your gas bill
I
now,
know, I did. It's a whole list of charges.
well, it looks like a CVS receipt. You know, your electricity bill shouldn't look like a
And then at
CVS
the bottom,
receipt.
there's a little credit.
Well, I looked at my own gas bill about a month ago. We had a cold winter. It was over $1,000 for gas. And in that bill, I had a $123 charge for energy efficiency. And then I had a $126 charge for something called distribution other, which I looked at. Guess what it was? A bunch of fees. And then at the very bottom, I had a $15 credit from Maura Healey for something called Massachusetts Winter Bill Relief. So $270 in fees, and I get back $15. Thanks for nothing, Maura Healey.
And some people will have to spend their summer paying that bill down.
That's exactly right, but it doesn't have to be that way. Those are decisions that have been made. Those are bad public policy decisions. The governor controls the Department of Public Utilities. The governor could strip all of those fees out of your bill. We have the second highest cost in the country for electricity, the highest in the continental United States, and it's because of all those state mandated fees. I'll tell you what else it's because of. It's because Maura Healey killed 2 natural gas pipelines when she was the Attorney General. If those pipelines were in place today,
Yes.
middle-class families and small businesses would be saving thousands of dollars.
Yes, they come out of Pennsylvania, tons and tons of gas there.
The cheapest natural gas in the entire
Yes.
world is in the Marcellus Shale. That's about
Yes.
300 miles from Northbridge, where we're sitting right now.
And we
It's-
could have tapped right into that, have it come here.
and they were ready to go. Maura
Yes.
Healey killed the natural gas pipelines. You know what we do instead? We import liquefied natural gas through the Everett terminal from bad countries all over the world,
Yeah.
and it costs about 5 times what it would to buy from the Marcellus Shale.
Yeah. Plus the fact that we don't have to rely on a ship coming in. We'd have it right there.
That's exactly right. But those
Now,
are
can-
things
can
a
you
governor
do
can
something
do.
about that?
You
Yeah.
bet. When I'm governor, I'd pick up the phone, call the White House, call the CEO of Williams Energy, tell them we are open for business. We'll build the natural gas pipelines. I would also really lean into nuclear energy. Nuclear energy provides about 25% of our base load in Massachusetts, but we could do more.
You know, you talk about nuclear, everybody's scared of nuclear energy. We had the Rogue plant out in Western Mass. We had the Pilgrim plant down in Plymouth. I never heard of any problems. Oh, we got a phone call. Go ahead, caller, you're on.
Hey, good evening, Harry and Brian, and I'd like to thank you, Brian, for coming forward and running, and I give you a lot of credit. And you almost need a D3 bulldozer to deal with all the issues in this state.
Well, I put my flak jacket and helmet on every day. I'm a good Marine. I'm not backing away from a tough fight.
Right. Hey, simplify.
Semper Fi.
Yeah. Hey, I heard I was at a meeting this afternoon, and I heard, I don't know if you heard this, Raytheon is leaving Massachusetts or something.
I didn't hear that, but I tell you, every day I hear about companies leaving Massachusetts. Every Friday, the state puts out the list of companies that left this week. There's 30 to 40 companies, manufacturing companies, Cape Cod potato chips. Have you ever heard of a company called Curia Global? They won Massachusetts Manufacturing Company of the Year in 2025. They got a big award in the state legislature. And guess what they announced in February of 2026? We're leaving.
What?
We're out.
Yeah,
Costs are too high.
I've heard that like 80 to 90 billion dollars of investment has left the state within the last few years, and almost 200,000 people have left, and another 100,000 didn't come here. And it's really getting crazy. Like I said, you're gonna have a full plate if you get in there.
Well, 100 people a day are walking out the door in Massachusetts right now. Maura Healey may tell you everything's going well. She says she's proud of the record so far. But people are voting with their feet. But I tell you what, help is on the way. I'm a business guy. I spent my whole life helping small companies grow and thrive. I know what it takes to get this state growing again, and I'm ready to go.
But they're bringing illegals in.
They're bringing illegals in. And that's been a huge cost to the state.
That's another thing, too, I wanted to bring up. They're giving them driver's licenses. And when you get a driver's license now, they register you to vote.
Right.
If they're illegal, they shouldn't be voting, number one. So how are they registering them?
Well, you know, when Charlie Baker was governor, he vetoed illegal alien driver's licenses, but he
Right.
was overridden by the legislature.
Yeah.
I believe we should have voter ID. I oppose
Absolutely.
sanctuary state policies. And think about the cost, Harry. I mean, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Maura Healey spent more than $3 billion in migrant hotels for illegal aliens. She's really ramped up spending in the home base program now, which are free apartment rental vouchers. It's big money. And at the end of the day, across all those programs, if you add the cost to schools, the cost of mass health, Maura Healey has probably spent close to $5 billion on all those migrant programs over the past 3.5 years.
That's shocking.
Well, to put it in perspective, you could give every city and town in Massachusetts $15 million in unrestricted local aid for what she has spent on those programs.
What
If
would
you
that
did
do
that,
for a budget, huh?
Wow.
you wouldn't be having a lot of overrides if you
No.
gave every city and town in the state $15 million. But it's a question of priorities. My priority is middle-class
They're saying
families,
the
small
state
businesses.
shortchanging. They're saying the state is shortchanging cities and towns to $3 billion.
Because Maura Healey has her priorities backwards. Remember, state governments never had more money than it does now. Our state budget's grown by 50%, 50, in the past 6 years. Yet we've lost hundreds of thousands of taxpayers. We're losing businesses. Revenues are going up, but it's not getting back to cities and towns in unrestricted local aid.
They even say Vermont and New Hampshire state government gives more back to cities and towns than Massachusetts.
Yeah, you should be returning to cities and towns around 30% of state tax revenue. Maura Healey's returning about 25%. To put it in perspective, the missing 5%, that's about $2 billion a year. That $2 billion a year for towns like Northbridge and Sutton, you're talking about millions and millions of dollars a year that would go a long way towards funding the fire department, and the police department.
Well, the state mandates programs for the school department,
Right.
and they don't fund it.
You read my mind, Harry. That's what I was going to say next. That all these unfunded state mandates and the state's not paying, and now the property tax owners are getting hit with the bill.
And make no mistake, if you live in a community that's facing a Prop 2.5 override, you can thank Maura Healey. There's been 180 overrides since she took office. If she was pushing revenue back to the cities and towns instead of blowing it on the state level on an ever-expanding group of a set of programs that do not benefit middle-class families or businesses, if she had her priorities straight, you wouldn't be facing overrides because she'd be pushing money back to local communities.
Right, I mean, I know,
All right. Well, I thank you very much for coming forward, and I thank anybody, especially in this political climate. And there's definitely a lot of challenges coming ahead, even with the fuel shortages coming down. And so thank you very much, and I wish you all the best of luck.
Well, I'm asking for your vote. Please get out there and vote on September 1st.
All right, right that.
all right, see you later, Barry.
We'll see you, Harry. Stay safe and be well.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, the thing is that she's cut the school aid, she's cut other aid, and the towns relied on that.
Right.
Now, their budgets are tight to begin with. And one thing with towns, those budgets are clean.
They're lean and mean.
They're
Lean and
yeah.
mean.
There's no fooling around.
You got to push money as close to the people as you can. If you give a town $15 million, they will spend it carefully.
Yes.
If you give state government $15 million, they will take it and give prisoners free cell phone calls from prison, which they've done, for $25 million a year. I would argue that's not a great use of money.
Oh, my
but local communities, you give them the money, they'll use it for the fire department, the police departments. I'm a big believer, push it back to the people. The people know best.
They give cell phones to prisoners?
In Maura Healey's administration, there are free phone calls for prisoners. In the old days, prisoners had to pay for their phone calls.
Yeah, they had a
It's now a
payphone.
$25 million a year run rate spend. And I would tell you that is a misuse of our money. Look at the home base program. The home base program is free apartment rental vouchers. You know what that was designed for? Homeless veterans
Yes.
that are having a tough spell, a family with kids that has lost a job, a mother, a single mother, temporary housing. That used to be about a $20 million a year program. Maura Healey has pushed thousands of migrant families into that program. It's now a $100 million run rate program. So there's another $80 million at the state level that I would argue give it back to cities and towns.
Plus, they give them the food stamp program. They give them a cash check.
And when you look at all these welfare programs, you've seen enormous growth. And when you think about the welfare state in Massachusetts, you got to look at growth. It's growing far faster than our residents can afford. It's growing faster than our core revenue. You got to look at oversight. Are we monitoring the programs? Are we verifying eligibility? Are we auditing the programs? Are we ensuring that the people in the programs should be in the programs? The answer is no. Look at the SNAP program. Leah Foley, who's the U.S. attorney, she's done 4 different busts of SNAP fraud this year alone. I saw one of the bodegas in Mattapan, Blue Hill Avenue, that she busted. They were running a $7 million SNAP fraud ring out of a small retail storefront, about 600 square feet, selling flowers and baseball cards and some Diet Cokes. But as was noted when people looked at it, if the state had done any sort of eligibility determination, or if the state had taken time to look at that retailer, they would have known that little shop could never be moving $7 million of
Exactly.
SNAP.
I mean, somebody's got to go out and look at these places.
But you know what we learned in that case and in others? The state's doing no verification on eligibility. It's pay now and ask questions later. Would you run a business that way? No way. I mean, Joe Biden's administration in 2024 found over $400 million of overpayments in the SNAP program in Massachusetts. What has Maura Healey done about it? Nothing. When I'm governor, we'll audit the SNAP program. We'll audit the Mass Health program. We'll audit the welfare programs. We'll audit the Mass Save program. Look at the Mass Save program. That's $1.5 billion a year now running through your electricity bills.
Yes, and they say, "Oh, we'll come up and do this," but there's nothing free in it. You got to pay for it.
There's nothing free in life, and there's no magic money tree. The auditor did an audit on the Mass Save program last summer, and she found that middle-class families are paying exorbitant fees and getting little or nothing
And you
in
got some
return.
contractors getting rich.
Who knows? Maybe, but we haven't audited it. I'm the only
Right.
candidate in this race who's ever audited a state agency. Back 11 years ago, when the T
Yes,
was
I wanna get
facing,
into that.
well, the MBTA was facing a fiscal crisis. The governor didn't call a politician. He called a Marine, he called a turnaround specialist. He called me. I was in the private sector building companies, which I enjoy doing, but I agreed to do 2 years of public service. And when I stepped into the T, we had a $300 million deficit. We audited everything. We audited the cell phone bills. We audited overtime. We audited our outside contracts. We audited the money room that handled our cash. Everywhere we looked, we found waste and abuse. We saved millions and millions of dollars for taxpayers. And when we found fraudsters that were stealing money, we threw them in jail. When was the last time you heard someone in state government do that?
No, it hasn't happened for a while now.
So look, when it comes to the audit, I have walked the walk. I'm the only candidate in this race who has delivered proven
Now, since you left, the
conservative reform.
MBTA has gone back into the red again, right?
Well, we balanced the budget for the first time in years when I was there, and it hasn't been done since. Maura Healey's added over $1 billion of annual spending to the T since I left. But the thing about state government is if you don't manage cost, if you don't pay
Right.
attention to the numbers, costs will continue to spiral out of
And
control.
you actually improved a lot of the transportation at the MBTA.
Oh, you bet. When I got to the T, the patient was on the table bleeding out. The system had stopped running. The commuter rail wasn't running. Over the course of 2 years, we increased investment in the system. We got the Green Line extension, which goes from Leechmere to Tufts, back on track. But as we did it, we also eliminated millions of dollars in waste and abuse. I know how to do it, but I tell you what, it takes a businessman mindset and an outsider
Yes.
perspective. You've got to have that because in state government, there's not enough people that have run businesses and managed a P&L. I've spent my life doing it. And when I was at the T, we looked at every single line item. You know, we had a $3.2 million Verizon wireless cell phone bill. That's a pretty big cell phone bill.
This is unbelievable.
You know, I said to the team, I said, that's a very large cell phone bill. When was the last time we did an audit of all these cell phones? And the answer was, of course, never.
Yeah.
They'd never done an audit. So we took a look at it. A third of those phones hadn't been used, seen, or heard from in more than 2 years. That was the first $1 million we saved. But everywhere we looked, it was like that. No one's managing costs.
People retired and they just, nobody says anything.
Who knows? We
They
found the
quit,
same.
they left the phone behind.
But what I took away from that is if you bring a businessman mindset and outsider perspective and you audit everything, every line item, every
Yeah.
contract, and you really put taxpayers first, in a state budget that's now $65 billion, you're going to find a lot of opportunity to save money.
Hey, we got another call here. Go ahead, caller, you're on.
I'm on.
Yeah, you're on.
Hey, Brian.
Hello?
Hello. You're going to find a lot
Oh,
of
you're
opportunity.
getting your TV turned up, there's a delay. That's where you're getting confused. Turn the TV down.
Hey, Brian. How are you planning? I just have a quick question. How are you planning on making sure money gets to those towns that doesn't go towards unnecessary programs and unnecessary funding?
Couldn't quite catch it.
Oh, sorry. How are you planning on making sure money gets to the towns and doesn't go towards unnecessary programs and unnecessary funding?
Well, I would do something called zero-based budgeting, okay? I'm a business guy. I've spent my life building companies. Zero-based budgeting means the following. We rebuild the budget from the bottom up. I would start my budget by doubling unrestricted local aid. Unrestricted local aid is about $1 billion a year. Let's double it. And I assure you, build from there. We will find plenty of opportunities in this budget to reduce spending in other places.
$1 billion. We're talking a state budget, what, 70 billion?
$65 billion.
$65 billion.
State governments never had more money. Just last week,
Right.
Maura Healey announced they found an extra $1 billion in the bottom drawer from excess capital gains tax.
Oh.
When I'm governor and I find $1 million in the bottom drawer, it's coming straight to Douglas, it's coming straight to Northbridge, it's coming straight to Sutton in unrestricted local aid. What we shouldn't do with that $1 billion is continue to rapidly expand a wide variety of welfare programs that are outstripping the capacity of our state to pay for them. So I would tell you this, it's about priorities. And if your priority was I start by doubling unrestricted local aid, that's where you build from.
You have another question, caller?
No, that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All set? Okay. Yeah, it's $65 billion budget. You can find $1 billion very easily.
Oh, you'll find it everywhere. I mean, Diane DeZoglia, the state auditor, is doing a great job.
Oh, I know.
Every time she does an audit in one part of state government, she doesn't find 8 or 10% savings. She finds like 80% savings. She did an audit on the one little contract that Healy had given, a no-bid contract to a black car company, like a limo company, to provide transportation services for migrants. It was a $6.8 million no-bid contract. The state was paying $150 a trip, in some cases, to move migrants from one side of a parking lot to the other. And what the auditor noted was if your goal was to move people around, you could have hired taxis for 40 or 50 bucks. Uber and Lyft would have done it for 20. And by the way, the local regional transit authority that runs empty buses up and down the road all day long, they would have done it for free.
Right.
So when she looked at it, this is one tiny contract, $6.8 million. In her estimation, the state probably got about $1.5 million of value, and the rest was wasted. She's done some audits on the Mass Health Program, auditing payments to vendors and verifying was the service provided, was the patient moved, the transportation contract. Millions and millions of dollars of overpayments. So what I would tell you, Harry, in a $65 billion budget, there's an enormous opportunity to eliminate waste. More than $1 billion. I mean, think about it. Our state budget has grown by 50%, 5-0, in the last 6 years.
Right.
And in that same time period, we've exported about 300,000 to 400,000 taxpayers. We're not growing our private sector, but state spending just keeps going up.
I know. It was a situation, too, with the unemployment insurance, wasn't there, from the feds?
Right.
We have to pay them back.
There's a $2 billion repayment owed to the federal government, but you know who that's coming on the backs of?
Business.
Small business.
Small business. Yeah.
I was with a restaurant owner on Cape Cod in May. We had a great event down at Tugboats in Hyannis, which is one of my favorite spots. They're a big employer of people, through the year. In their case, it was $15,000 to $20,000 of incremental cost per payroll period, which is a fee the state is charging to recoup that money. But at the end of the day, zoom out a little. All it is another thing that's making it really hard for small businesses to thrive here.
The thing is, the state's got the money in the rainy day fund. They could have paid it out of that and not hit the small business.
Well, the problem with hitting the small businesses is the harder you hit them, the more of them are leaving. I meet with small businesses every day that get to the point where the math here in Massachusetts just doesn't work anymore. I was with a restaurant owner in West Roxbury last week who told me their property taxes have now gone up to $60,000 a year. Their electricity and gas bills are now up at almost $80,000 a year. And those cost items are expanding much more quickly than their revenue. And as a result, they're thinking that maybe that business isn't going to work anymore. So when I'm governor, you got to put small business first. I've spent my whole life as a business builder, an entrepreneur. Our companies that we invest in are 20 to 30 employee companies. For companies of that size, regulations, taxes, fees, electricity bills, it really adds up. And we got to protect those companies. We've got to get them growing.
Oh, I know. I mean, electric bill here is $1,000 a month.
Imagine that, $1,000 a month. And that's just to run this small studio. For families in Massachusetts today, that electric and gas bill is close to $480 per month over the course of the year. That's $6,000 a year. And by the way, it doesn't have to be that way. It's that high because of bad decisions on Beacon Hill. It's that high because of state-mandated fees. And a new governor, we could change all those things.
Right. We get another call. Go ahead, caller. You're on.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. How we doing tonight, guys?
Great.
Okay.
All right, well, I just wanted to say, I want to call in real quick. I mean, I'm having a really hard time affording Massachusetts in general. I mean, I'm looking down the barrel of moving down south myself. The energy bills are sky high, gas, everything. You've touched on those subjects. Out of curiosity, I mean, how can you get rid of all the energy bills or at least bring them down to somewhat of an affordable rate? I mean, how can we do that?
Well, it's about leadership. And one thing they teach you in the Marine Corps is leadership means having a bias for action. When I am governor, I will eliminate all of those state mandated fees from your electric and your gas bill. A third of your electric and gas bill now are state fees. It's $1,500 a year. Maura Healey has put together a blue ribbon commission to study why your electricity bill is so high. We don't need a blue ribbon commission. Take a look at it. It's all state fees. So I'm a big believer as a leader, take action. I would take action on those fees. I would sign the income tax rollback. That would save the average middle class family in this state $1,400 to $1,500. You know what else I would do? I would end the tax on tips. I would end the tax on overtime. I would say no to the new mileage tax, no to tolls on the Cape Cod bridges, no to the hike in the auto excise tax, and no way to congestion pricing taxes to come into the city of Boston. Because under Maura Healey, those things are all coming if she's reelected. But there's a lot a governor can do to fix it right now. By the way, the governor of Connecticut, who's a Democrat, has called for suspending the gas tax in Connecticut.
Yes.
President Trump has said he wants to suspend it at the
Nationally.
federal level.
Yes.
Maura Healey, if you're listening, you could do that tomorrow.
Right.
Call for a suspension of the gas tax until gas gets back to 200,
Right.
maybe $2.50 a gallon.
Yeah.
But it takes leadership, right?
Right.
It takes leadership. And I am firmly committed as a leader to driving affordability and taking action immediately. That's what it's going to take. And it's going to take a governor that's been in the business world.
Got some more questions, Colin?
No, that's great. Thank you so much. I mean, I just at one point I was curious as to whether or not Maura Healey had a controlling stake in U-Haul at this point. But thank you very much for that.
Well, Massachusetts is at the very top of the U-Haul one-way outbound list. And that's a list you don't want to be on the top of.
Right.
Those are people that have said, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back.
We hear that about California, but it's happening right here.
Well, look, there's 100 people a day that are leaving
Oh, is that Colin?
Massachusetts.
Oh, it's hanging up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to eventually hurt because the people that don't move are the ones that don't make a lot of money.
Right. And you know, Harry, it's about choices. We don't have the highest electricity cost in the country because of bad luck. It's bad choices. Maura Healey ran on the largest tax increase in state history, the surtax, which took us to a 9% marginal rate. That's a choice that was made. So as governor, I will make different choices. I will make different policies. This is a great state. We got the smartest people in the country. We could be number one again. We could be number one in growth, number one in jobs, but we have to make different choices. For all your listeners, you have a choice to make. I'd appreciate your support September 1st.
She wanted to go with alternative energies. That's fine, but you can't afford to do it overnight. So what she do? She shuts off the gas line. Gas is a lot cheaper to make electricity with gas than there's anything else.
Everybody wants clean air. Everybody wants clean water. I've got young boys. I care about those things. But we have to pursue those goals without bankrupting the state, without driving middle-class families out, and without crushing small businesses. Maura Healey killed 2 natural gas pipelines. 2. If they were in place today, families would be saving thousands of dollars. The cheapest natural gas in the entire world is in the Marcellus Shale, and I'm pointing. It's about 300 miles from here. We should build those pipelines.
Yeah.
We should also invest in nuclear energy, which is efficient and cheap.
We can let her call here. Go ahead, call. You're on.
Oh, hello. Yes, thanks for taking the call. I just had a quick question for Brian regarding our energy prices in the state. You know, a couple of years ago, we had Maura Healey come out. She glowingly said that she stopped 2 natural gas pipelines from coming into this state, and now it seems like she's trying to walk that back. So my question to Brian is, do you think that was maybe the wrong approach by Maura Healey, stopping the gas pipelines from coming in? And what are your thoughts on us having to burn like millions of barrels of oil during that cold snap this winter? That doesn't seem like the right approach.
Well, look, when it got cold in January and February, every solar panel in the state was buried under 3 feet of snow. The windmills out in the water were frozen over with ice.
Yeah.
And even the Canadians turned off Hydro-Quebec,
I know.
which is the hydro coming in. So guess what? because we don't have enough natural gas, we were back to running oil-fired plants like the one in Braintree, Massachusetts, that only fires up in times of great need. So I would tell you that Maura Healey's energy policies have been a spectacular failure. They've failed us because they've driven up our costs, and they failed us because when the chips are down and the weather got cold, we're back to using oil to generate electricity. Maura Healey has also banned new gas hookups. That is a killer for businesses. I was in Douglas, Massachusetts about 2 months ago. There's an enormous site there that would be a perfect location for a data center or a distribution center, 1.3 million square feet. But guess what? They need to hook in to natural gas.
Right.
You can't run a 1 million square foot distribution center with solar panels and windmills. You need natural gas. If you're going to run a data center, they want to generate their own electricity.
Right.
They don't need.
They need to because they use a lot.
And they don't need the electricity from the grid. All they need is natural gas, and they will run gas-fired turbines, which are clean, to generate power for the data center. Maura Healey has blocked them from new gas hookups. That has a direct effect on that town. They'd be getting millions of dollars in income.
Valley.
And the whole valley. But by the way, you see it with homes as well. There are homeowners that are trying to build new homes that can't hook into the system. They're being required to go on electric heat pumps for heat. And by the way, when we have the highest electricity rates in the entire continental United States, the last thing you should be doing is forcing homeowners to use heat pumps. All it does is continue to make the state less and less affordable.
Yeah, and you also make it impossible to build a house.
You make it impossible to build a house because it increases the cost of building a house. When it comes to building new homes in this state, we need more supply. But a lot of these regulations that Maura Healey has put in, for example, the stretch energy code, required electrification, required solar panel plans for the roof, no gas hookups. The result of those things, if you talk to builders, has been to increase the cost to build by 25 to 30%. And as a result, you can't build affordable housing. When I'm governor, we'll suspend the stretch code. We'll suspend some of the zoning rules in the city of Boston, for example, that have required an extraordinarily high percent of units to be affordable. But the result of those regulations is projects don't pencil out, and therefore no one's building. Another example would be MEPA review. That's the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency. In New York, Governor Hochul, a Democrat, just announced she is suspending MEPA review in New York for all state residential projects because she acknowledged they add cost, they add time, and those reviews don't do much other than more red tape and more money. 5-year suspension. If you suspend MEPA review, if you suspend the stretch code, if you suspend some of the zoning requirements, you will find there's probably 100,000 units out there that builders would build. The market works, right? The laws of supply and demand are undefeated. If you drop the cost to build, units will get built. But we need a governor who will lead there and take action.
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's not just the housing, but the rents are just prohibitive for people.
Right.
And the further you go, closer you go to Boston, the worse it gets.
That's exactly right.
You all set, Carla?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to a point that young people can't afford to, they leave the house, they can't afford to get a rent.
Right.
My granddaughter is looking to find a place. Can't find any place she can afford.
Well, young people need two things. They need a job and they need a place to live.
Yeah.
And as governor, I will be committed to getting our economy growing again so there's more jobs for young people. And I'll be committed to slashing all that red tape that is making housing too expensive to build so that we can build housing that people can afford to live in. But you got to do both. You got to provide jobs and you got to provide housing.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to do.
We know how to do it.
We know how to do it.
There's members of the Boston City Council, by the way, all Democrats, who have proposed suspend inclusionary zoning rules, suspend the stretch code. In New York, the Democrat Governor Hochul has ended MEPA review. These are good ideas.
Right. And just talk to the contractors. They'll tell you how easy it would be.
And these aren't Republican ideas or Democrat ideas or independent ideas. They're good ideas. We got to get this economy growing again. We got to build more housing. And a lot of that red tape and a lot of that administrative burden you're putting on builders is resulting in builders deciding they're going to build somewhere else. The largest investor in Boston real estate is a guy named Fred Cans, who runs an outfit called National Real Estate Investment Advisors. Billions of dollars invested in Boston. He recently announced he's exiting the Boston market. And as he noted, it's not because of interest rates. Interest rates are high everywhere. It's because of all this red tape and all these rules that have made it too expensive to build here. There's plenty of other places he can build.
Right, exactly. When you add to the cost of building, they're going to look elsewhere.
Of course. Or else builders are only going to build very high-end stuff where the math works. Because guess what? It's a math problem. And right now, there are thousands and thousands of residential projects that don't pencil out. I was talking to a developer in Quincy who said, this is a multifamily development, condos, who said that the stretch code there was adding $30,000 to $50,000 of build cost per unit. His project was already underway when those rules came in, but he said, I wouldn't do it again today because with that additional cost, it's too expensive. So the next project, I'll do it somewhere else.
And all we get from the current administration is, what can I raise the taxes on?
Well, Maura Healey has never met a tax she didn't like. She ran on the biggest tax increase in state history in 2022. And just look at what she's proposed this year. The Municipal Empowerment Act. By the way, what a nice sounding name, huh? The Municipal Empowerment Act.
Sounds nice.
You know what that bill would do? It would allow cities and towns to triple your auto excise tax.
Right, which we got that down with Prop 2.5.
Prop 2.5 took it from 6.6% to 2.5%. Big win. Under the Municipal Empowerment Act, your auto excise tax could go up to 7.5%. To put that in perspective, if you bought a car for $50,000,
well, that's the thing too. Now cars are a hell of a lot more expensive now.
You bet they are. The average new car in this state is close to $50,000.
Right.
You'd pay at 6% sales tax. You'd pay $3,000 to take it off the lot, and then about 6 weeks later, you'd get that dreaded note in the mail from your local community. The excise tax.
And you already paid the huge sales tax.
You paid the huge sales tax. You got the car home. You probably got about 1,000 miles on it. In my example, a $50,000 car, you get a bill for $1,200. That is a punch in the gut. That bill could be $3,700 under Maura Healey's proposal. When I'm governor, the Municipal Empowerment Act will be dead. You know what else will be dead? The mileage tax. There's another bill moving through the legislature called the Freedom to Move Act. Yeah. Another nice sounding name. You know what that bill would do? It would enable the state to begin to track how many miles you drive and impose a mileage tax. It's a bad idea.
Yeah, when you get your inspection sticker, they'll mail you a bill for your mileage.
Of course they will. But when I'm governor, we will end annual car inspections. Be done with it. We're one of only 14 states that still requires annual auto inspections. With modern cars and the technology, you know if your car has a safety issue long before the inspection does.
Well, you don't see the oil burners around there anymore. The blue smoke pouring out the exhaust pipe. You don't see the cars rotted out. They're built much better today.
And there have been multiple studies nationally that show no correlation between annual auto inspections and safety outcomes. Those inspections are a waste of time and money. When I'm governor, we'll cancel them. We will also block proposals to put tolls on the Cape Cod bridges. I think that's a bad idea. And we'll block the proposal to put a congestion pricing tax in Boston.
I'm going to bring that up.
You could be paying somewhere between $9 and $20 every trip you take into Boston. That's a bad idea.
Charging you to enter the city.
Imagine that.
Even if it's $9, if you work in the city, it's going to cost you $45 a week to go to work.
Imagine if you're a small business owner. I was with a locksmith in West Roxbury last week that runs 6 mobile vehicles. They're driving all over town. They're fixing locks. They're installing locks. They're letting people into buildings when they lost their key. In their case, they told me that congestion pricing tax, that could cost them hundreds of dollars a week. It's a bad idea. But with Maura Healey and Michelle Wu, everywhere they look, they see more opportunities to use our citizens as basically an ATM. We got to end that.
Well, I think they claim that they're trying to encourage people to use the MBTA.
That's fine. Encourage people to use the MBTA. But there's big parts of this state, like Worcester County and Hampshire County and Bristol County and Plymouth County, where people are in their cars every day.
But sometimes you may have no choice. You know, if you have a doctor's appointment in Boston, maybe you can't use the MBTA because it won't get you there in time.
Or you're a young family and you've got kids you've got to
Yeah,
pick up
and
at
you gotta-
school.
Right.
But what it is just another example in
But
Massachusetts.
they were even gonna charge it, from what I understand, it was gonna be, if you're driving up 93 from the South Shore to the North Shore, you gotta go through Boston. You gotta
course.
pay the tax. Just to go through?
Yeah.
I didn't even stop.
Well, you know what that's going to do? It's going to continue to drive up the cost of living here. Under
Right.
Maura Healey, we have become the most expensive state in the country on any number of metrics. Taxes, electricity bills, cost to operate a business, workers' comp insurance, unemployment insurance, healthcare cost, car tolls, you name it. We're at the top of the list, but it doesn't happen by mistake. Those are choices that have been made. They're bad public policy decisions. When I'm governor, I will reverse those things and we will focus on affordability.
Right, and they say, well, how much can the governor do with the Democratic state? The legislature runs the state.
Well, I'll tell you what, when Bill Weld became governor
He
back in
managed it.
1990, people told him, you'll never be able to get anything done because it's all Democrats in the legislature. Bill Weld cut taxes 41 times in his first year. You know why? Because he was a good leader and he had good ideas. The
Yes.
best ideas always win. And if you've got good ideas and you're willing to lead, believe me, there's plenty of Democrats and plenty of independents that feel just the way we do. There's a lot you can get done. And by the way, if you look at electricity costs, for example, the Democrat head of the Energy Committee in the state legislature, who's Mark Cusick from Braintree, he proposed in January a lot of the ideas I'm talking about. Begin scaling back the Mass Save program, start cutting those fees, turn all those net zero 2030 mandates into recommendations. Those are the right ideas. And guess what Maura Healey said? No way. She wouldn't touch it. When I'm governor, we'll put those ideas out, and there are plenty of Democrats that'll support them.
Right, and that's the other thing too. It's a powerful position to be governor because you're going to appoint a lot of people as well.
You bet.
And if you appoint the right people, we'll get a better job.
And here's what I will do. I will stop appointing soft on crime judges.
There
I
you
mean,
go.
look at Maura Healey. The state parole board, which she controls 5 of the 6 appointees, is completely out of control. They have released more than 60 violent convicted criminals who are in prison with life without parole, and they're getting released every Friday now. That deranged madman
Yes,
up
he
in
was
Cambridge,
He was one of them.
look, up in Cambridge on Memorial Drive with an assault weapon, fired 60 rounds, could have killed 15 people. That guy in 2021 fired at Boston police officers. The DA asked for 10 years in jail. A soft on crime judge gave him 5, and then Maura Healey's parole board let him out early. That's outrageous.
I know.
That guy should be in jail. He should not be on the streets. When I'm governor, we will fire every member of the parole board. We will put people on that board that understand the importance of victims' rights, and most importantly, put public safety first. We should never see a gunman like we saw this week on Memorial Drive out free when he should be in jail.
That's the other thing. We have a question on the ballot about strengthening the gun laws, which are the strongest in the country. I'm sure you're not for that.
Well, look, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment.
Right.
I'm a Marine. I'm a big believer that people should be able to carry weapons. And by the way, thank God
That Marine
there
was
are
there.
people in this state that do carry weapons legally.
Yes.
Because the only thing that saved the day on Memorial Drive 3 days ago was a former Marine with a license to carry that was armed, and he's the guy that
He
stopped
backed up
that
that state
shooter.
trooper.
You bet he did. If he hadn't been there with a legal weapon, you could have seen 10 to 20 people die. So I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. I'm a strong supporter of the right to bear arms.
Right. The people that buy them legally aren't a problem.
And you know what we ought to do? Let's enforce the laws on the books.
Yes.
This state has a lot of laws on the books
Oh.
that are not enforced. Like, for example, a mandatory 1 year for an illegal gun,
Right.
illegal weapon. That is always the very first charge dropped by soft on crime
Yeah,
prosecutors and
why
judges.
did they even pass the law?
Well, you know what? Let's start enforcing the laws we have on the books before we dream up new laws that
Right.
really only punish law-abiding gun owners.
Yeah, they got all these laws in the books already, and they put them all down. And so why even have them?
Well, and then you end up with violent criminals in jail who are released by Maura Healey's parole board.
Yeah.
One of the guys who was released about a month ago killed a pizza delivery man who had a young family, killed him in cold blood. That guy was released by the parole board. Should have been in prison with life without parole. And remember, by the way, when life without parole came in, it replaced the death sentence. And we were told then that life without parole was going to be something better.
Yeah.
And here we are, we find that we don't even have that.
It was definitely going to be life without parole. And then it turns into, well, you know, they've been there a long time. Oh, we release them on weekends.
Well, you know, the result is it's the slow deterioration of accountability in our criminal justice system. You're releasing these people onto the streets, and you see the outcome, like we saw this week on Memorial Drive. I think it's outrageous. When I'm governor, we'll get back to basics. Keep the bad guys in jail. Appoint judges who will be tough on crime. Appoint a parole board that puts the rights of victims and the safety of the public first.
Right. The thing is, you won't commit the crime if you know you're going to go to jail.
That's exactly right.
And if you know you're not going to get out easy.
But if there's no accountability,
Right.
you're going to see more crime. Another example of that would be cashless bail. You know,
Yeah.
cashless bail is
Oh.
costing taxpayers $7 million a year because guess what? The state has to put up the money. I believe we should end cashless bail. I believe that I'll give you another example. Back in the fall, there was that Boston police cruiser that was burnt to the ground
Yes.
by a big mob of people. And the two guys that were arrested there, the prosecutors wanted like $37,000 of bail. They got out with $500 of bail. It's outrageous. I oppose that.
Yeah. For $500, they won't even show up in court.
Well, again, that's just another example of a lack of accountability. If you don't have accountability, and it starts with things like cashless bail or low bail limits, you're going to let a lot of people out that should be in jail.
Right. Okay, I'm definitely against cashless bail because you got people that commit violent crimes and they let them out on cashless bail.
You bet they do.
God. And look, in fact, what is it, in Chicago, where they're cutting the ankle bracelets off.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I maybe, yeah.
Yeah, they've got to have how many? It's in the thousands that they don't know where they are.
Mhm.
I mean, you got to realize that these people could care less. They're going to do whatever's good for them.
The guy, the shooter on Memorial Drive last week, had a rap sheet that was pages
Yeah.
long. This guy was a bad guy, had a big criminal record, has major psychological issues. Everyone knew it, even his parole officer knew it.
And with the gun laws we got, and he still got a gun.
And he got a gun. The judge that sentenced him 5 years ago to a very lenient sentence, even she acknowledged she was rolling the dice. She was taking a chance on him. It's a mistake. We got to put the security and safety of the public first. And when you look at Maura Healey's parole board, it's her responsibility. The buck stops with her. She has appointed those people. They should all be removed. And we should put people on that parole board that care about the rights of victims and care about public safety and care about keeping people off the streets.
Hey, look at their rap sheet. Oh my God, all these crimes. I'm not going to let you out.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I even think of it? Mm-hmm. But then you're also going to have judges that are going to give them some good sentences.
Well, and the governor appoints judges. And when I
Yes.
am governor, we will appoint judges that are law and order and tough on crime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up. You want to make a parting?
Well, Harry, thank you so much for having me. As you know, I said, I'm Brian Shortsleeve. The primary is September 1st. If you're an independent voter, you can come out and vote in the Republican primary. If you're a Republican, you can vote too. I would appreciate your vote. I'm a Marine. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businessman. I'm the father of 3 teenage boys. I'm a business builder. I spent my life helping small companies scale and thrive. And I'm ready to go as governor day one to get this state growing again and make this state #1 again in so many ways.
Yeah, you're not a full-time politician.
Not at all. I've spent 25 years in the private sector building businesses. I did spend 2 years in state government, and that was great experience. I'm a turnaround specialist, and I was brought into state government to solve a massive financial crisis at the MBTA, but I'm a business guy through and through.
Well, you know, the idea behind that, when this country got started 250 years ago, was you would serve a couple of years in government and then go back to living it. So that way you live with what you put.
That's right. Well, I did 2
We
years
don't
in
do
state
that
government.
anymore.
I had 2 years in state government. I had no desire to be a long-term state government bureaucrat. I
Right.
was dying to get back to the private sector, but I had a mission. My mission was to balance the operating budget for the T, fix the Green Line extension, strip out waste and abuse, get costs under control, and we did those things. You can achieve a great deal in government when you bring a businessman mindset and an outsider perspective. And by the way, a Marine's determination, because it's hard work. Driving reform in state government, you got to take on the bureaucracy, take on the big government unions, take on the contractors that often are making a lot of money. But as a Marine, I always put the mission first. I never back down from a tough fight. And my mission in this race is to restore affordability in Massachusetts. I've got a plan day one, ready to go.
And you're not looking to move up after that, you just want to be governor.
I just want to be governor. I want to fix this state. I got
Yep.
3 teenage boys. When I talk about this race with my wife, it always comes back to our sons. You know, I want them to come back here after college and raise their families here and build companies here and chase their dreams here. But I do fear if we don't get the private sector economy growing again and we don't get costs down in Massachusetts, my kids, my grandkids, your grandkids, they may be living in other states.
And Lieutenant Governor, you still,
I got a great lieutenant governor running with me, Sean Oliver. He's a city councilor from New Bedford. He understands the challenges that municipalities face every day. He's a corrections officer.
Yes.
He's got a great background. He understands law and order. It's a terrific ticket. He's from New Bedford, so he brings a lot of great experience with the South Coast. He's also a first-generation American. His
Right.
parents came to this country legally. He's part of the American dream, and he's going to be a great lieutenant governor.
my grandparents came here from Poland, and the first thing they had to do was find a job,
Yeah.
because they didn't get any welfare.
Well, look, I'm a big believer in legal immigration. This country was built on legal immigration.
Right.
By the way, if you look at the biggest companies, publicly traded companies in America, about a third of them are run by immigrant founders or their families. It's
Yes.
a great part of our tradition. But people have to come here legally. They have to do it the right way. And they have to salute our flag, and support our values.
Yes, yes, I see it too much. These demonstrations with foreign flags. Come on, you're in America. If you don't like America, get out of here.
Well, this is a great country, and this is a great state. And I know we can be number one again, but we need leadership. We need a
Yes.
governor that will lead. Governor Healy tends to appoint blue ribbon commissions and, councils on every problem that faces us. She appointed a competitiveness council to try to tell her why businesses are leaving Massachusetts. When I'm governor, I will not need a competitiveness council. I know why businesses are leaving.
It's right there
It's
in front of you.
taxes, it's energy bills, it's
Right.
regulations. If you need to appoint a competitiveness council, it means you're not competitive. I know what to do, and I'm ready to go on day one.
Just look at where they're going. And look at those states. And why are they going there? Well, obviously, less taxes, less energy costs, less everything.
Less everything. And we can get there again in Massachusetts, right?
Yes.
We can get there. We do not have the highest energy cost in the country because of bad luck. They're choices we've made, bad
We gotta
decisions.
go.
All right, thank you so much. Great to see everybody. Thank you, Harry.
Thank you.
This was fun.